This is the Gridiron Guys Podcast with Anthony Stalter and Super Bowl champion Carey Davis.
Driven by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Guys with Carey Davis, Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm Anthony Stalter, longtime NFL something or other. I don't want to say that I've covered the NFL. But
you have. Well,
to some degree I have, I guess.
We covered the St. Louis Rams together, so that is they
did.
were in the NFL and are.
Yeah.
Although I don't think they knew it all the time.
Front office probably not. The players still tried. So I got nothing against the players. Yeah. But Carey and I are based in St. Louis. Carey and I did cover the Rams for several years before they went out to L.A. But Carey, an absolute wealth of knowledge, and you hear that each and every podcast. Played for Illinois, running back for Illinois. Bounced around the NFL until found his home with the Pittsburgh Steelers and won a Super Bowl. It was the San Antonio Holmes Super Bowl against the Arizona Cardinals, as I'm sure you remember that. But we appreciate you listening. We're going to be doing this each and every week moving forward. And Carey and I thought today, after we went division by division and did some win totals, and go back and listen because there's a lot of content there.
Yeah.
We did each division based on the win totals. We gave predictions and told you why we thought that team would either go over or under their win total. Today, we thought, well, should we do some news? But look, it's training camp. It's lying season. Every team is posting highlights of one-on-ones. Like
it matters.
Look at our new wide receiver winning a one-on-one battle against a corner that is 5 yards back and won't make the team. Like, no thanks. So we thought we'd do a series of questions based on pressure. Teams under pressure, coaches under pressure, quarterbacks under pressure, players under pressure. And each question will give an AFC response and an NFC response to kind of mix things up a little bit. So, Carey, I thought we'd do, first and foremost, the team under the most pressure to at least make the playoffs.
Okay.
All right, so I want to specify, it's not necessarily winning a Super Bowl, but what team in the AFC and NFC, and I think this is actually the layup, so I wanted to start with that.
Set this bar low at just making the playoffs.
Just make the playoffs.
Just make the playoffs. Just have a pulse and get in.
Basically. I've got two teams that fit this category.
All right, you go first.
You want me to go first?
You go first. Who you got?
AFC, it's the Jets.
I think that's I like that.
You trade for Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
You gave up future assets to bring in Rodgers. You were tired of the Zach Wilson experiment. I don't blame you. You were tired of every quarterback experiment before that. You went the route of drafting guys and Sam Darnold and Mark Sanchez and all that. Okay. You made the big trade because you think that you are in a position where you're only a quarterback away. That, to me, is what the Jets are telling everybody when you trade for Aaron Rodgers. Cool. I got no issue with that. You got a good defense. You got a good running game when Breece Hall is revving. You got an offensive line that's okay. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a stable of receivers that are very good. So you say, we're going to add Aaron Rodgers. Okay. At the very least, Jets, you better make the playoffs. So that's my AFC team.
I like that pick, obviously, because of what they did in the offseason. They have the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. They are a team that seems poised to be very good and simply needed a quarterback, needed an adult in the room. They had Mike White. They had Zach Wilson. Flacco started some games for them. They just couldn't get over the hump of what was needed most in that quarterback position has been solidified for them in the offseason. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay.
And the reason being, you got Justin Herbert, who just got paid an obscene amount of money. He's one of the top tier quarterbacks. I think, in some people's opinion, top 6. I don't know if he's gotten to the top 5 range. You got a few guys.
For Herbert?
Yeah.
Oh, he's in my top 5.
He's in your top 5?
Absolutely.
Burrow, Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, Jackson.
I've got him.
That's 5 I got right there.
I've got him over Hurts right now.
Oh, you are a madman.
I think Justin Herbert has put on a show the last couple of years. Jalen Hurts had an MVP type season a year ago.
Yeah. He missed it because there was a guy in Kansas City that won it.
That's fine.
There's nobody better than him.
Jalen Hurts had a great year last year.
He may have won it. Probably does win it if he plays in those 2 games.
Justin Herbert's been a stud the last 3 years. I got him do it for more than 1 year, and I think he will for Hurts. But I got Justin Hurts above Hurts.
That feels dirty. I'm gonna say the reason why
it was easy for me to say that.
The reason why I say the Chargers are the team is because Brandon Staley, as your head coach, we've seen a lot of odd, sometimes questionable, sometimes mind-blowing, head-scratching decisions from him from time to time. You get Kellen Moore, the new OC, coming over from Dallas after being released or let go from Dallas after having a pretty good offensive output with those Cowboys. And what they have, you got Justin Herbert, who, as you said, is a top 5 quarterback, but you got Mike Williams.
He is a top 5 quarterback.
That's your opinion. You got Mike. I just gave you 5 in front of him. Anthony,
I told you,
was just off the top of my head.
You got to move one out.
I'm not moving any of those guys out. You got Mike Williams. You got Keenan Allen. You go out in the first round, you draft the Quentin Johnson. You got Austin Eckler at the running back position. Rashawn Slater at left tackle. You got a lot of talent on this offense. Do you know what they did last year? They made the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Do you know what happened in that playoff game? They were up 27-0.
They falconed the crap out of that.
They did. Worse. This is worse. At least the Falcons they was 28-3. This is 28-0.
They were whooping that ass.
So, and then you allow a touchdown right before halftime, and then it just snowballs out of control for the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a team that, last year we thought the AFC West was probably going to be the toughest division. It ended up not being because of a guy in Denver that didn't perform well and another guy in Las Vegas that they didn't even want to finish the season. I don't know what the hell that was about.
No kidding.
And so, but this Chargers team has an immense amount of talent offensively specifically and defensively. You got Bosa, you got Derwin James, you got guys, you got Khalil Mack still there. They have a lot of talent and a lot of opportunities to be really good. Mm-hmm. Can the team get over the hump, make it back into the playoffs? I think that AFC West division will be better than it was last year. Can they get over that hump, make it into the playoffs again, but have a better outcome this year than they did last year?
Yeah, to me, the Chargers, it's a good one. The Chargers need to make the playoffs based on one, who they have at quarterback, but as you mentioned, the talent around them. And I think you had said this last week, CD, and I agree. The secondary for the Chargers, I really like, with Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr. I loved watching his dad play for the Eagles and the Falcons and the Patriots. The Chargers are a team that should make the playoffs. All right, for me, so I picked the Jets. Carey picked the Chargers for a team under the most pressure to, at the very least, make the playoffs this year. The NFC, to me, is another layup. Don't talk to me about how great the Detroit Lions are if you're not going to make the playoffs, at least. Everybody loves the Lions. Everybody loves the Lions this year, Carey, and I get it. That offense last year was explosive. Dan Campbell is easy to root for. Mm-hmm. The Lions are easy to root for, especially if you don't have a team, because they've never won. I was in Detroit. I was covering the Pistons at the time, but certainly was in the Lions locker room a fair amount as well. The fan base is incredible in Detroit. They're long-suffering. I feel like they're getting a lot of hype, which is fine. The defense is not good enough at all.
Yeah.
So, I feel like we're overhyping them a little bit, but just from the basis of the excitement level, and everybody's talking about Dan Campbell, and everybody's talking about that offense, you at the very least better make the damn playoffs.
I agree. They go out and draft a linebacker in the first round after they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round. And so maybe they're trying to shore up that part. Aiden Hutchinson was really freaking good last year as a rookie, and so he'll have another year under his belt. They went out and got Emmanuel Mosley in offseason from San Francisco, who, had he not gotten injured when he did, I think San Francisco was well on their way, obviously quarterback issues aside. Mm-hmm. They were a really good defense. And you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson as well. So I think defensively they made some upgrades. I'm pretty sure they were trying to get a cornerback in that draft this year, and unfortunately were unable to, so they went with the best player in Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think that this team is poised to be an offensive juggernaut. They got offensive guys that can go get the ball left and right. Amon-Ra St. Brown does not get enough credit for what the season he had last year, which was spectacular.
Best possession receiver in the game.
Spectacular. And so if you get Jamison Williams back in the fold, which We do expect them to. They got David. They went out and signed David Montgomery. I said Jahmyr Gibbs in the running back in the backfield. Those two guys are going to get the ball. We saw what they did last year with DeAndre Swift and with Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams led the league in touchdowns. So they get to the goal line. They're going to hand the ball off to their running back, Pete Carroll. And so
you make one mistake in one Super Bowl.
It's going to stay with you for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so they are a team that I think, when you are looking at this NFC side, that's who I was thinking initially as well. That the Detroit Lions, a team that needs to make it to the playoffs. They're poised. They're young. Their quarterback has already been to a Super Bowl. We forget about Jared Goff. We just write him off. Well, we just forget about him and forget that he actually took a team to the Super Bowl. They lost, but he took a team to the Super Bowl, and he has had success. And there's always – he's like the Alex Smith of this generation. You're always trying to replace him, but he's always doing a really good job. And so that was going to be my pick as well. I can give you – I think the Dallas Cowboys would be in that conversation as well with Dak and trying to figure out if they're going to be able to throw the ball and have success doing that. What are they going to do with Tony Pollard running the ball? But my pick was also the Detroit Lions. Yeah,
in taking the Jets and the Lions, for me, Carey is more about – look, the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, Dallas needs to make the play. For me, it's Dallas needs to take that next step. You want a playoff game last year in Tampa, and then when Tony Pollard got hurt against San Francisco, you lost your mind.
Yeah,
you had no plan B. You had nothing. So to me, Dallas is more in that category of you better take that next step in terms of winning multiple playoff games. For the Lions, a team that has been downtrodden forever and built up some excitement with the fan base last year. You just make the playoffs at this point, and I think it would be a success. All right, quarterback under the most pressure to win big. So win big, this is the juncture in his career where you're kind of at the fork in the road to some degree. Not that you're going to be a bust, not that you're going to be labeled a certain way, just that you have shown enough to win big, and you haven't yet.
Okay.
So for me, in the AFC, it's Josh Allen.
Ooh.
Josh Allen has not gotten the Bills to a conference championship game yet. We remember the back and forth battle with Kansas City a couple of years ago, and what a remarkable game that was. That was also the moment where everybody was jumping on the Josh Allen bandwagon. This guy, is he on the same level as Mahomes? He's clearly number 2, all that. And last year, because they weren't physically prepared or tough enough at home in the elements against the Bengals, who came in and just beat their ass.
Yeah.
The Bills, now there's a bunch of question marks. I feel like there's this cloud now over Buffalo. I think they're a really good team. I still have them winning the division, a tough division, but I still have them winning the division. But if you're Josh Allen at this point, you've kind of get the fork in the road of, are you going to be put into that category of, he's pretty good, can't win the big one. And we know this is the process over and over again with our quarterback. So for me, this one, quarterback under the most pressure to win big, AFC, it's Josh Allen.
For me, it's when you look at Josh Allen, I think they have to go get him a running back. The issue that they have had, playoffs, I say this all the time, it's about playing defense and running the football. And if your quarterback is your leading rusher, if he's your guy that you feel most comfortable handing the ball to, I don't know how much success you're going to have. There's a little rift that started off training camp between him and Stephon Diggs. We'll see how that plays out over the next couple of months. But I think Josh Allen is a hell of a quarterback, but I agree with you. He is one of those quarterbacks that does have a lot to prove. When I'm looking at the AFC, I'm torn because there are a few names, and I don't know that for me, Trevor Lawrence is probably too young in the game in his career to give him that. But then you look at a guy who comes to mind, and that's Tua Tagovailoa, and they're not that far off in age. And Tua is a guy that this Miami Dolphins team, when he was healthy earlier in the year, they were rolling. They were going and seemed unstoppable. There are talks that Tyreek Hill may be a 2,000-yard receiver this year because that's how potent this offense can be with Tua healthy. And so for me, keeping him upright, making sure he is able to stay and play in every game. I know they said he's doing jiu-jitsu. I don't know how that helps you unless you're going to kick a defensive end in the face when he comes to tackle you.
Yeah.
I don't know how that helps you fall. Maybe I'm missing something.
You know what?
Here.
He's putting in the effort, Carey. You know, he's trying to figure it out.
It is delightful to hear that he's trying to do that. But Tua staying healthy, and I that's my 1A, and then I'm gonna give you one more, and that's Lamar Jackson.
I agree with that
because Lamar, a former MVP, and I am really. This has probably been the most excited that I have been for Lamar in his career because he has people. Well, that too. I mean, Greg Rum, what the hell are we doing? Why are you guys in the same area? That's what the playbook said. We both run here. But, you know, if the two guys are in the same spot, one guy can come down. That's what the playbook said.
Lamar, run! What we're doing?
That was embarrassing, to say the least. But for me, when you have a playmaker to the degree of Lamar Jackson, and you add an Odell Beckham Jr., who the last time we saw him playing football, he was well on his way to being a Super Bowl MVP.
You stop
when
it.
you add a Zay Flowers, you say,
you and I just disagree on the Odell thing. Go ahead. You didn't catch it at first. You caught it, but the hamster had to get back in the wheel there.
I missed that. You add a Zay Flowers in the first round out of Boston College, who
He's awesome.
Some people think it's going to be electric, and getting the ball in his hands is going to be important. Rashad Bateman, who you drafted a couple of years ago, if he's healthy, and then the ultimate weapon in Mark Andrews, who is a tight end that often gets forgotten for whatever reason. He's been their leading receiver for the last couple of years, the guy that Lamar trusts the most throwing the ball to. You have him. Can they get healthy at the running back position so that you don't have to lend on Lamar to be that lead runner, a la what Josh Allen does in Buffalo? We'll see. But for me, those two quarterbacks are the ones that have the most to prove this year. That Lamar just got a huge contract, got paid, and now he finally has the weapons to help him. I think it's going to be a really good year for him.
So I'm going to say Josh Allen. I'm going to put you down for Lamar.
Okay.
For in the AFC.
I like that.
We'll stick with one. So, but great points on two as well. All right, quarterback under the most pressure to win big in the NFC. I think you can make the case to go right back to Jalen Hurts, but I'm actually going to go in a different direction here. I'm going to go Derek Carr.
I was thinking him too. That's a very good one.
I'm going to go Derek Carr for a very simple reason. He's playing in a worse conference, in a worse division. He's got a defense. I don't even say a better defense. He's got a defense for the first time in his career. He's got more than enough weapons. I know that Alvin Kamara is suspended for a couple of games, but he'll be back. He's got, good young receivers in Chris Olave, and I guess we'll see what happens with Michael Thomas.
I hope he's healthy.
I hope so too. But he's got some weapons there. He's got good coaching. He's got a defense, and he plays in a bad division in a down conference.
Yep.
Derek Carr to me has always been that guy that has been a franchise quarterback, good, not good enough. And he's gonna have his. I know. The stats and all that.
We had cameras in here so you could see my face when you say certain things.
You totally grimaced at that. But okay, there are some people. Maybe you're one of them, Carey. There's some people that are saying Derek Carr's a lot better than you think. Now's your opportunity to prove it, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Bad division.
Yep.
You're gonna have a cakewalk schedule, man. You got to win big.
Yeah.
Don't win the NFC South and have everybody talking about how you found greatness there in New Orleans after years of misery in Vegas and Oakland, and okay, fine, and then lose in the first round of the playoffs. That's kind of where I'm at with Derek Carr. So you don't have to win the Super Bowl, but you better win multiple playoff games if you are the real deal.
Well, we talked about the NFC being a much easier division to make a run towards the Super Bowl. So I agree. One win after potentially winning the division, which I don't see anybody in that division that should even be close to what the New Orleans Saints have based on their defense and based on their weapons on offense. For me, now, hold you. You want to sit down?
No.
You want to sit down?
Oh, no. You got to win big?
You got to
win big. Not just win big.
He's got to win big.
Like a crossroads. Ooh, now you got me.
He's got to win big. This is potentially his job. I'm going to go Justin Fields. And I don't,
I see. Okay. All right, go ahead.
And the reason being, Justin Fields, very good year last year. Second year in the league. Threw for 2,242 yards, 17 touchdowns, but his ability to run the football is really what was separating him last year, and he was fantastic. I mean, he did a fantastic job, rushed for over 1,000 yards and had 8 touchdowns, And so you add a DJ Moore, who I told you before, if DJ Moore played his entire career for the Chicago Bears, he would be the leading receiver in Chicago Bear history right now. Jeez. DJ Moore is in his 6th season. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is negligent.
And he's good, but he's not
negligent.
He's not great.
If you're the Chicago Bears, that your leading receiver doesn't have more yards than what DJ Moore has right now in his career. And so I'm looking at what they have. They got another St. Brown, Equanimous St. Brown, Armand's younger brother. And so, or is he the older? He's younger, right?
I want to say he's older.
He might be older. I think he is older. You got Chase Claypool, who we're still waiting on Chase to figure some things out, and hopefully he does there. But the step that Justin Fields has to make right now is you got to show that those people want to keep you around, that new organizational front office wants to keep you around. So they're not looking elsewhere. You got to make more of a progression in what you did last year. Is it playoffs? I don't know. I mean, it's possible. Jordan Love is a third-year quarterback, but a fourth-year quarterback. He's a first-year quarterback.
Yeah.
We already talked about Jared Goff and what people think about him. You got Cousins in Minnesota who doesn't have a running game now, and so we're going to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson 1,400 times.
Worked last year.
Kind of did. But they were able to run the ball as well.
Yeah.
And so that division is not something that should scare you as much either. And so I'm looking at Justin Fields to take a step. Is it a playoff step?
Yeah.
Probably not. But much better than worst record in the NFL like they were last year. So 8, 9 games, that type of progression where he is throwing the ball downfield. He's got receivers. Cole Kmet, who I think was very, very good last year. Started off slow as hell. I know. I had him on fantasy. It was, oh God, catch a ball, man. And so, but he started off slow and got going as the season got along. And so I want to put Justin Fields in that quarterback with a lot to prove because, again, his career, his life in the league as a starter is probably dependent upon it.
I think we're setting him up for failure. I think the media is setting him up for failure. I do.
He was special. I mean, he has a talent.
He was special as a runner.
Yeah.
And we've seen
he didn't have anybody to throw
runner.
to either.
He didn't. I don't think DJ Moore and Chase Claypool are suddenly going to transform into AJ. Here's where I think. Yeah. Here's what I think we're doing with Justin Fields, and I think it's unfair.
Okay.
We're looking at what Jalen Hurts did last year, and we're saying Justin Fields can do exactly that. He might be able to, Carey, but let's add a little perspective here too. Jalen Hurts, and I don't know about Justin Fields, he might be, but Jalen Hurts is one of the hardest working players in the National Football League. And this is somebody that, I mean, dating back to college, has had success, and he's had jobs and opportunities taken away from him. And all he does is he bounces back. He's got more grit as a player than I have seen out of most players. So that's Jalen Hurts, okay? So we shouldn't just say Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields are the same guy. I don't know about Fields. We'll see.
Right.
Jalen Hurts had the number 1 offensive line in football last year. The Chicago Bears had the worst offensive line in football last year. Now, they made some adjustments.
Yes.
At the most, I think the Bears have an average offensive line. So like 16th as opposed to 32. That's a pretty big jump. It's still not number 1.
Yeah.
The Eagles had the number 1 defensive front 7 in all of football last year. The Bears do not.
Right.
The Eagles and Jalen Hurts have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert in the passing game. And they had 3 running backs on top of what Hurts can do.
The Bears do not.
The Bears do not. The Bears are improved, but I think what we're doing is we're taking improved and saying Fields could be an MVP candidate this year. I've seen that discussed on ESPN. Yeah. We're setting this kid up for failure because even if he takes minor steps, Carey, in the passing game, which he has to take astronomical steps in the passing game, but even if he takes minor steps, and this Bears team is 7-10 this year, which is an improvement. I think we're gonna view it. Justin Fields didn't take that next step.
I don't think that I wouldn't put Justin Fields as an MVP candidate. I don't think he's going to be close to that, but I think he will be much better. I'm talking 3,500 yards passing, 25 to 28 touchdowns and maybe 10 to 12 interceptions. If you give me those numbers, along with 700 to 800 yards rushing, which I think he's very capable of, I think you are a much better team. And I'm looking at these offensive stats from last year. Anthony, I haven't played.
Oh, it's terrible.
I haven't played in 10, 12 years. Mm-hmm. This is not great.
No.
Especially in the passing game. I mean, you got Cole Kmet was your leading receiver. You know how many yards he had receiving?
700.
544. He was the leading receiver.
Wow.
The running back was the fourth leading receiver in David Montgomery. You got squeezed in between those Darnell Mooney and Equinemius St. Brown with 493 yards and 323 yards. It wasn't great. So adding DJ Moore, I think the Bears did a fantastic job having that first pick, trading it away, getting great things in return, able to draft a first-round offensive lineman, able to get a star receiver that can go catch passes for your star quarterback. So you're protecting your quarterback with one pick, and you're protecting your quarterback with a receiver that he can throw the ball to that can make plays downfield. I think Justin Fields takes a huge step. Now, it's not going to be MVP huge step, but it will be a huge step in this season compared to last season.
I hope if he makes improvements that we talk about the improvements as opposed to saying, well, the expectations were, that he leads the Bears to the playoffs or he has this breakout season.
That's going to be tough.
I don't think that's fair.
Even
it's
in
nothing
a weak
against
conference.
Justin Fields.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
No.
He's fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's got a long way to go as a passer. Yes. And I think if we understand that and then observe him, I think it's a little different than saying, boy, he disappointed this year. All right, it's the Gridiron Guys here on the Gridiron Guys podcast. Carey Davis, Anthony Stalter. We're talking about most pressure. Most pressure to succeed, most pressure to win. Let's talk about team under the most pressure to at least reach a conference championship.
The team?
Yeah, team. So for me, I already talked about this team. I'll keep it brief. I think the Bills have to at least reach a conference championship game. You've been in the playoffs. You've hosted playoff games. You've lost home playoff games. You've gone to Kansas City. You've lost in shootouts there. This Buffalo Bills team, the more that the longer it takes for you to win, the more that you're going to start paying free agents to come in, paying guys that you want to retain. The Bills are starting that. In fact, they started a year ago by paying Josh Allen. They've paid, like Ed Oliver, they paid this year. They brought in guys like Von Miller. This is what you're supposed to do when you have a competitive team. But at some point, you start to become cap restricted, and then you need to have that the results match your cap situation. So I think Buffalo is at that point now. They got to get to at least a conference championship.
I like that pick.
It's a tough road to hoe, man.
That's a tough ask.
Yes.
It's tough. We were talking about this earlier. It's tough to win in professional sports. It's tough to win a championship. It's tough to win week after week in the NFL. But those are the expectations. When you have had the success that Buffalo has had, they lost a playoff game to Cincinnati at home last year in the snow, where you didn't expect them to lose that game in the manner in which they did because it was a home game.
And Cincinnati played the week before against Baltimore.
Yeah. You didn't,
in a rough physical game.
You didn't expect them to lose in that manner, and so I agree with you there. But I'm going to go with another AFC East opponent, and one you said earlier. I'm going to go with the New York Jets. And
to at least make the conference championship?
Yes.
Oof.
And that feels unfair, but so what? They got all of the talent there, all of the talent in-house. We talked about it. The thing that they were missing, and you said it earlier, was their quarterback. They needed a quarterback. Anthony, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 of their last 8 games. And they had 3 different quarterbacks in all 8 of those games. A different quarterback. For 3, throughout those 8 games, 3 different quarterbacks played. And so you have an offense that was in dire need of a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, in some people's opinion, could be one of the greatest quarterbacks to play the game. He's definitely.
Oh, stop it.
He's where does he rank? He's behind. In my opinion, he's behind Peyton.
He's obviously behind Brady. He's obviously behind Peyton.
Brady doesn't do that for me.
He's behind Joe Montana.
Brady doesn't do that for me.
He's behind Dan Marino.
He doesn't do that. How many MVPs does Aaron Rodgers have?
2, 4.
I believe he has 4.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
And a Super Bowl.
And a Super Bowl. He's up there with one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the position. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no questions asked. And so if you were the one position that you needed the most, if you bring in one of the top 5 people to ever have played the game, you damn well better make it to an AFC championship game. That is the standard right now, and it's unfair probably for everybody else that's in that locker room that has not had that success in their individual careers, but this is why you brought him in. You think they paid for Aaron Rodgers to come in to take him to the divisional round? Wild card weekend? Whoa! The hell no!
This is still the Jets we're talking about, Carey.
This is a team that brought him in to win a championship. So conference title game, bare minimum for me, is what the New York Jets need to make it to.
For Aaron?
Aaron.
All right. Team under the most pressure to reach the conference championship from the NFC. I talked about the Saints earlier with Derek Carr. I'm not going to choose the Saints here. I do think that, you should – I think the bare minimum expectation for Derek Carr and the Saints should be to win at least one playoff game because I think they're going to be hosting a playoff game because I think they're going to win the NFC South. So that to me, like, we can kind of stop there. To me, the team that needs to at least reach the conference championship is the Philadelphia Eagles, and the reason for me is very, very clear. It's they're best. They're the best team in the NFC. They're the best team in the NFC last year. They proved it week in and week out. They proved it in the playoffs each and every round. I love the 49ers. I do. But the Eagles got the 49ers have the second best roster in the NFC. The Eagles have the first. Mm-hmm. I talked about the offensive line. The offensive line is best in football. They got the best wide receiver tandem in the game. They got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts that came into his own last year. The defense lost a couple of pieces, then replaced those pieces with top-end talent. The defense is locked and loaded. This coaching staff came into it. Like, everything is clicking. You cannot waste this window in the NFL because you really only get, unless you're the Patriots with Belichick and Brady, you only get about 3 to 5 years. 5 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
How many teams have gotten consistently to the conference championship game faltered or, playoffs faltered?
Yeah.
To me, the Eagles need to take advantage of the talent that they have, similar that I was talking about Buffalo and paying guys and all that. It's a cap sport. It makes it difficult to win consistently. The Eagles' window is wide open right now. So to me, it's the Eagles.
I like that pick. I don't know if they've won a Super Bowl in the last 7 years, right? They are,
team.
It's a different team, different coach, different. There's a few people still there, but they have won, and so they are a team that, and they went last year. Unfortunate that they were unable to come through. I don't know if they are a team that needs to make it to a conference championship. I'm going to go with the team that has made it the last 2 years, and they got to do it again, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. That, to me, is the team. You lose in L.A. to the Rams a few years ago, and you had more fans there than they did. Mm-hmm. And then you lose last year to that Philadelphia Eagles team that you just talked about because your quarterback has a torn elbow. And so how far can they get this year? I think they have to make it to that conference championship game, and they have to get over the hump. They haven't been able to get over the hump. They lost in the Super Bowl in 2019 to the Kansas City Chiefs. They have been the last 4 seasons, Super Bowl, didn't make the playoffs, lost conference championship, lost conference championship. They are a team that has been right there on the cusp of being, locked in as immortals in football lore, and they have not been able to do it just yet. And so you get a healthy Brock Purdy, who, if he's healthy in that Philadelphia game, I don't know how that turns out, but if you get a healthy Brock Purdy and you're able to make it throughout the entire season with him healthy, I think they have a chance, and I think that's the team that has the most. And let's not forget our guy, head coach, your guy.
Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, your guy.
You've come around.
I have.
CD, you and I had a conversation about 5 years ago that did not go well.
It wasn't great. But he has shown and proven himself to be really good at scheming plays to get his best players the football and get them open and find running scheme. I love the running. I'm, as you said earlier, running back at heart, fullback. Run the damn ball, man. That's what I'm going to get on my shirt. Run the damn ball, man. And he does it better than anyone. So I think they're a team that needs to make it to the conference championship again.
All right, let's do a couple more. Let's talk about coaches. Head coach under the most pressure to retain his job. Oh, yeah. I think the NFC is a layup.
Oh, it's a – yeah.
You and I
finger roll.
All right, George, so you and I both agree. Go ahead.
Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, wow. No, it wasn't then.
Who were you going with?
I was going with Dead Man Walking.
Who?
Todd Bowles.
Oh, well, that's a given.
I mean, come on.
He don't even have who's his quarterback?
Exactly. Like he's going to get fired mid-season.
Mike McCarthy.
So are you talking about somebody, all right, how about this? A guy that can actually save his job.
Yes.
Okay. McCarthy,
Todd
we can
Bowles
agree
is,
with.
unless
So
they pull out a miracle.
You're already saying Bowles is a foregone conclusion.
Unfortunately.
All right, I agree.
Yeah.
McCarthy, we can get on board with.
Because we've seen some questions. Anthony, if the best play you can come up with, and I know he wasn't the OC, but one thing is that as a head coach, because I'm a head coach for a high school team, when a play is called, you know what that play is.
Absolutely.
And if you hear that your last play of your season involves your running back snapping it to the quarterback, timeout. Who the hell decided that?
Yeah.
Who in the hell decided that we're going to put a running back in front of a defensive lineman and have him get blown the hell up?
Right.
That can't. So
Who hates Zeke?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Who
here?
hates? Is that you, Kellen Moore? You hate Zeke?
I don't know what they thought was going to happen. I can guarantee you that didn't happen in practice because nobody hit him like that.
No.
Yeah,
right.
It didn't happen. So
this will work.
no, it's not going to work at all. So as a head coach who, I mean, when he came back a couple of years ago as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, it seemed like he was lost. Like the game had almost passed him by with an inability to challenge when he should have, or call timeouts when he should have, understanding game management, play clock management, things of that nature that as an offensive coordinator you definitely should know. But as a head coach, it's no question that you should be able to do those things in your sleep. And so watching him, Dak Prescott had led the league in interceptions and missed 2 or 3 games, which is not great. So now you're calling the offense. You're the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, who they aren't great in terms of how well they've performed over the last 20-some-odd years. Playoffs, he has the most to prove, and he is the one that has the most to get done with his job on the line, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that one. If we're assuming that again, Bowles is just there's nothing Bowles can do.
I don't think it's fair for him. I don't think.
I agree.
It's
So
nothing.
Here's why I'm almost rooting for Mike McCarthy.
Okay.
When Aaron Rodgers was drafted, I've mentioned this before on our radio show. When Aaron Rodgers was drafted from Cal, he wasn't ready to play right away. The Aaron Rodgers that we came to love in Green Bay was not the player that showed up in Green Bay.
Right.
Brett Favre was still there, obviously, but it wasn't just Brett Favre that was standing in Rodgers' way. Under Tedford at Cal, quarterbacks were very robotic. Everybody had to have the football up by the ear, and they had to throw a certain way. And Rodgers had all this athletic talent, but Mike McCarthy worked with Rodgers to become more fluid. He dropped the ball from the ear down to the chest so that he can have a quicker release. He worked on his footwork. He worked on his timing. And Aaron Rodgers blossomed into MVP, Super Bowl winner. And toward the end of the Rodgers and McCarthy split, I felt like McCarthy became the punching bag, right? And I'm not saying McCarthy didn't do anything wrong. I mean, there's a lot of reports that McCarthy checked out and all that. So, but now it's like McCarthy won a Super Bowl too. But it's, how do we phrase it? Well, Rodgers won the Super Bowl.
Right.
He won with Rodgers. Okay. This was not his offense, clearly, the last couple of years. It was Kellen Moore's offense. Because Kellen Moore was supposed to be the wonderkin, and Jerry Jones wanted Kellen Moore. Hey, if you're hiring Mike McCarthy, you're not hiring him for his personal skills. You're hiring him for his offense.
Because he understands it very well.
Yes. You're not hiring Mike McCarthy to give rousing halftime speeches.
Not at
Clearly.
all.
You're hiring him for his offensive mind.
Right.
So to hire him and then still have Kellen Moore as the OC, and I agree with you, man. Play calls in, you're part of it.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're not putting a stop to it, that's on you as a head coach.
Yes.
You're the leader. Buck stop is the leader. So I'm completely with you, Carey. But this is going to be his offense finally.
Right.
All right? So if he fails, at the very least, he's failing with his offense. And I'm almost kind of rooting for him a little bit because, again, I don't think he got the credit that he deserved reshaping Aaron Rodgers early in Rodgers' career. And I don't think he gets the credit for being a Super Bowl winner.
You know what I would love to see? Just as Jerry Jones is like, you know what, I'm running down here on my years. I'm going to be the old ball coach. I'm going to call plays.
Oh, boy.
I would, why not?
Yeah.
Why the hell not? It's your team.
That'd
Do whatever
be interesting.
the hell. I would love it And then maybe you can see that it's not as easy as you think it should be, or as it is. I think that would be awesome.
All right.
I don't know how that would go over with the team, but
yeah, probably not well. All right, so head coach, we talked about, so we both agree it's McCarthy in the NFC. Head coach under the most pressure to retain his job in the AFC, it's Brandon Staley for me.
Yeah.
Dude, you're locked and loaded. You got a great roster, and you messed up last year again. Justin Herbert had to bail your ass out so many times during the regular season. Stop, dude.
Yeah.
And I thought your defense was. I thought you were a defensive guy. You're hired from the Rams. Oh, this guy's unbelievable defensively. Well, it's a little easier to call plays when you got Aaron Donald in the middle of your defense. Was it players or scheme in LA? Mismanagement of the clock. You talk about somebody that is so far into the analytics and not going for two and all that. Brandon Staley is the guy to me in The Waterboy, the Fonz, up on the chalkboard, and he's like, "We're gonna fake right, we're gonna fake left, we're gonna think about faking right, then go left." Like, that's Staley to me sometimes on the sidelines. You've got a great team. I don't understand why you thought Mike Williams should be playing in a game that didn't matter in Week 17 last year. That was dumb as hell. If you don't understand what Mike Williams means to your offense and he's out there, then he gets hurt and he's not a vet. Like, come on, dude. To me, he's got. This is it.
Yeah,
this is it. Brandon Staley's got to show something, or to me, he's going to be back to being a DC next year somewhere. Yeah,
he was one of the guys that I thought could possibly be fired, even though they made it to the playoffs, especially with how that season ended last year. It was. You can't be up 27-0 and end up losing the game, and then it's not what you want. And then I just look at him and I think that there are some very questionable decisions that have been made on his behalf, and it's not fair for his team to have a coach that has that is malpractice when he's calling his plays or making his decisions.
He's lucky Nathaniel Hackett was in the same damn division last year, or else there'd be even more attention on Staley and some of his decision making.
There were some really bad decisions, and I'm looking at this AFC side. We talked about possibly Bill Belichick. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I brought up Kevin Stefanski because, I mean, Cleveland. Why not?
Yeah.
What else would you expect? A name that is intriguing to me is Mike Vrabel. And you've drafted quarterbacks in the last 2 years, and you're still probably going with Ryan Tannehill.
Did you?
You did.
Did you draft quarterbacks?
You did. Yeah.
Okay.
Willis and Levi.
Yeah. And I wonder if Malik Willis in a couple of years with some seasoning would be something. But go ahead.
So I'm looking at him, and I know they were really ravaged last year with injury. They are in probably the worst division in the AFC. I think that's I don't even think that's close. So if they're unable to have success this year, I think Mike Vrabel has been there how many years now? 5?
He's been there 6? Quite a while, and to me, he's done a really nice job.
I think he's done a very good job
because I don't think they've had the best rosters.
Right, I think he's done a very good job, but it's sometimes the voice can become stale when it's the same person over and over and over again. He has been the head coach for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be his 6th year.
Okay.
And so if you aren't producing, you had the number 1 seed a couple of years ago and lost to Joey B and the Cincinnati Bengals. That could be a person that if they don't have the success winning the division and probably winning a playoff game, you would be looking at Mike Vrabel, who I really do like. And I think if you're being honest, I think he would know that pressure is on. I mean, this is a business where you have to win, and you have to win championships.
Yeah.
And they haven't come close to it yet. The carousel at quarterback trying to figure out, it's not been a carousel. Everybody is on the carousel, but only one person keeps getting off to be the starter.
Yeah.
So, I think that he would be one person that has some pressure on him for this season.
All right, so we're going to do 2 more. We're going to do 2 more questions. Now, this is going to be a little different. This is coach with the most approved. And, Carey, I want you to go first because your NFC choice for the coach with the most approved. This isn't head coach. It's just coach.
Yeah.
It can be a head coach. But for you, I think your choice is very interesting in the NFC.
Yeah, mine is Eric Bieniemy, a guy that coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs, has been there, won Super Bowls, been a part of that organization, and done a fantastic job. really showing Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill when he was there how to be pros and how to become, leaders and champions. I think he did a fantastic job, but for whatever reason was unable to be hired as a head coach. And this is the prime opportunity for him to say, hey, because there was also how many questions about who's actually calling the plays. I know he's got the title, but is Andy Reid actually calling the plays? Right. So now you're out on your own. You're able to have Terry McLaurin and you got Curtis Samuel. You got Brian Robinson in the running back, Antonio Gibson in the backfield. Yeah, quarterback leaves a little bit to be desired in Sam Howell. He ain't Patrick Mahomes.
No.
But you are in your own offense for your first time away from all of the things that made you comfortable. And so how well does this Washington football team, Washington Commanders, Redskins, soon to be Red Hawks, I don't know what their team name is.
Yeah.
Soon, whoever they are, the team in Washington, how well are they able to succeed offensively? Because Terry McLaurin is a stud at receiver. Can you get Sam Howell to get him the ball, and can you run the ball effectively, and can you have an offense that really puts up points and takes some pressure off that defense that I think is really good as well?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. Carey, for me, when it comes to the NFC coach under the most pressure, I am going to go with the head coach, and I'm going to go with the guy that is getting a lot of love. It's Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, I thought, did a remarkable job last year, and not just getting the Lions to believe. Like that was the thing everybody gravitated toward, and rightfully so. He's got. He wins the press conference. He's got this kind of, gregarious way about him. Everybody loves him. And, I want to play for Dan Campbell. I think all of that is great. There was some missteps. I remember the Minnesota game specifically, one of the Minnesota games, where he screwed up, the clock late in the game, kind of cost the Lions an opportunity. And there was one other instance, I thought, in the first half that went that way too. And I had talked about, look, Dan Campbell biting kneecaps, everybody loves playing for him,
right.
But how is he on Sundays? And I think that's one area where he talked about it. He was open about it. He's like, I screwed that up. The coaching staff screwed that up.
Which as a player, you appreciate.
I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure. So he admits that. And better yet, the Green Bay game, the last game of the year, he had a similar situation. He's up against the clock. He had some decisions to make. And he made not only, look, because every decision, it can go right or wrong. Okay. Right. And I don't think we should just judge based on the results.
Right.
But the decision that he made at the end of Green Bay, I can't remember specifically what it was, but he not only made the right one, he made the one that made the most sense to protect the clock and give his team a chance to win.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
So Dan Campbell, to me, took that step as a head coach, not just a motivator last year. And I think he's got the most to prove now because the expectations are higher. When you're 0-6 or whatever they were at the start of the year, the expectations, especially when you're in Detroit, aren't very high.
Right.
They're going to be high this year. So for me, it's Dan Campbell, but it's not a situation where I think like, oh, he's got so much to prove. I'm intrigued by it because now the expectations have climbed. Let's do one more.
I got AFC.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. We didn't. Neither of us did the AFC. Okay,
I got one for the AFC, and you talked about this quarterback having a lot to prove and being one of the guys you want to look at. I'm going to go Ken Dorsey for the Buffalo Bills, the
That's
OC.
a good one. Yeah.
His second year after replacing Brian Daboll, who we saw, what he was able to do in New York as the head coach, calling plays and running that offense. They did a fantastic job. He's in his second year as the OC of the Buffalo Bills. You already had some issues with Stephon Diggs, which I talked about. It seems like he wants the ball in those critical moments. Players, we're very cognizant of what goes on around the league. And so I'm sure Stephon Diggs is looking at – he sees the catch that Justin Jefferson makes against them and says, why the hell doesn't my quarterback trust me and throw me the ball like that? I need the football. And who does that lean on specifically is the OC, calling the plays that get your best receivers in position to catch footballs and make plays. And so I'm looking at Ken Dorsey, not that he has pressure on him, meaning he could potentially lose his job, but there's a pressure that is associated with making sure that offense is clicking and running effectively as it was a couple of years ago when Brian Daboll was running the show.
Yeah.
And also, again, figuring out what they're going to do at that running back position. Are you going to let James Cook run the ball, or are you going to lean on Josh Allen to be your lead runner and say, hey, You got to be the leading rusher for this team. Figuring out how to get that offense moving and going in the direction. I love the pick of the Kincaid kid out of Utah that they drafted from tight end. To add with Dawson Knox, I think they're going to be really good at that position. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Ken Dorsey does in his second year as an offensive coordinator calling plays.
I like that one a lot. I was thinking Todd Monken, who's the OC in Baltimore. We spent a lot of time talking about him, but I actually think he's going to do a really great job. And
does the college game, how much different is that from the NFL would be the one thing to pay attention to
definitely
in his first year. Because there are some obviously similarities, but there are some nuances and some differences that you're going to face versus pro teams as opposed to college teams.
Big time. At least he's coaching now in an era that's a little bit more open to college concepts. You know, when it was back when you were playing, Carey was like, man, I don't think so, man. That college game isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go with Todd Monken. I also thought for a second, as crazy as it sounds, but with the decision making that he had last year with naming a special teams coach and a defensive guy as his OC,
like that too.
But Bill Belichick, like, look, he's forgotten more about football in the last hour than I'll ever learn, so I'm not going to do that. I am going to go Josh McDaniels, his former OC.
That was another one.
So Josh McDaniels, this is it for him, in my opinion,
as a head coach in the NFL.
He'll always be an OC. I think he'll have an opportunity if he wants. And maybe if he drops down in the college game, he become a head coach. But in the NFL, you got your chance in Denver. Didn't work out. You know, you went to the Rams there as an OC, then back to New England for a while. You left Indy in the lurch
at the door.
I do wonder. I do wonder if he had the sense that
the insight
Andrew Luck was not coming back and he bailed.
You said who? You're not going to do what?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I won't be able to go there.
Okay, I get it, but you still left him in the lurch, and I think he was fortunate to get another head coach job after the way he left Indy.
Yeah.
I think McDaniels is smart, and I think he can run an offense. But you got to prove it, and you got to prove that you could do it out of Bill Belichick's shadow.
Right.
So I think he's got a lot to prove, and the Raiders are that team that they're good enough, I think, to be competitive, but you got so many question marks with Josh Jacobs and Jimmy Garoppolo, and you traded Darren Waller and all. Can you build a defense? I mean, the defense, I can't believe it got worse than it did 2 years ago, but it did. I think Josh McDaniels has a lot to prove. So that's my guy in the AFC.
He is 17-28 as a head coach. Yeah. He got fired after. I didn't realize he got fired after his second season. I thought it was into his third year that he got fired in Denver.
It was very quick. He had a bit. Remember, like Kyle Orton was there?
Yeah.
I thought he had a pretty good stretch early on with the Broncos. I think they started off pretty good.
Didn't
he was kind of the talk of the town, and then everything turned on a dime. All right, last one, Carey. Quarterback under the most pressure to succeed this season, a la Daniel Jones a year ago.
Ooh.
So, like, Daniel Jones was that guy. It's like, you might either be a backup or out of the league soon unless you have a big year. And he wound up having a good year from a running standpoint last year and leading the Giants to a playoff win.
There are so many names that I could think of. We're going to go NFC first?
Whatever you want.
What about Trey Lance?
Yeah, is he even going to have an opportunity?
Is he going to get a chance? Trey Lance is a name that comes to mind, and I feel like this is unfair because I think he's gotten paid well his entire career, but hasn't come close to a championship yet. Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got the numbers. Like, the stats are always good. That's
everything is there, but at what point are you going to push for a championship, at least an NFC championship?
Mm-hmm.
Because that city of Minnesota has they ride with Kirk. They ride with the Vikings, and they are a spectacular team that does a lot of good things, but winning a championship or getting close to it is something that he has not done yet.
Yeah. And
so I think those will be the two names that come to mind. Trey, because I don't even know if he's going to even play. And then Kirk, because, I mean, it's Kirk Cousins. He's got to I want to see them have an opportunity to go and make a run.
I'm split on Kirk Cousins. So there was a graphic that somebody sent me on Twitter not too long ago about comparing Kirk Cousins' numbers in the playoffs to Joe Burrow's numbers in the playoffs. And there's a couple of things that really stood out to me. One was that the Bengals in the playoffs have generated a ton of turnovers. And they've generated...
Well, most of them came against Tennessee.
Yeah, it's true. But the Bengals defense has always been very good. Yeah. One of the things that I always defended Matt Ryan on was that the guy never had a defense. Right. I mean, never. The guy had a bottom 15 defense every single year he was in Atlanta.
To win.
That's tough to win that way. But everybody talks about what? Hey, you had Julio Jones. You had Roddy White. You had Tony Gonzalez for 2 years. Why couldn't you get it done? The defense sucked. Yeah. He was constantly dragging a bad defense, right? Yeah. Kirk Cousins has not really had a good defense in Minnesota, at least of late.
Yeah.
So I think, when I think about it that way, Kirk probably deserves a lot more credit for what he's done. However, when I look at those two graphics, right, or that graphic, Joe Burrow and Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins' numbers are either equal or better than Joe Burrow in the playoffs. You know what I think? Cool. You take Kirk, I'll take Joe. Let's see what happens. That's the thing with Kirk Cousins, right? Like, you could talk about the numbers, and you could talk about how good he has been, better than maybe what he deserves.
Yeah.
That could be true, and he also doesn't get it done.
Yeah.
Like, there's those
Both
quarterbacks.
things can be true.
I talked about Derek Carr earlier.
Yeah.
Derek Carr has had some pretty good numbers. He's had some pretty good seasons. Has he gotten it done? No.
Not yet.
And he hasn't had a defense, too, so there's some reasons for that. But,
okay,
at what point do you say, all right, Kirk Cousins can get it done? So that's kind of where I'm at with Kirk. I'll end the spiel there. As far as the most pressure to succeed this season, in a similar manner as Daniel Jones a year ago, when I look at the NFC, there's a couple of different ways that you can go with this. To me, I think that there's not one guy that's kind of like on the brink of going one way or another. Kirk Cousins is a little interesting, but I also think he's kind of secure in his role. I think Desmond Ridder has one chance.
Yeah. I agree.
I think he's got one chance. He's got one chance to prove that he can, at the very least, be what Ryan Tannehill was in Tennessee. And this is his opportunity. He's a third-round pick. I think the Falcons are going to be better than people think. It's an easier schedule. Their offensive line is very good. They've drafted well from that standpoint on the O-line, and they've paid those guys. Defense is better. It's not good. It's better.
They got a running back in the first round.
They got a running back in the first round. They paid a lot for their defense. But they had all the scope and cap space because Matt Ryan's deal came up, and they spent a lot of it on defense.
Yeah.
And they've got some weapons there. Desmond Ridder, can he at least protect the ball?
Right.
I think he's got one shot. If not, I could see the Falcons trading for Trey Lance.
Ooh, that's intriguing.
I could see the Falcons saying, okay, we're not going to give you much for him, but you got your guy in Brock Purdy.
Right. You don't need two of them.
You don't need two of them. And Atlanta can be patient. San Francisco cannot.
Yeah. I agree.
So I could see the Falcons maybe making a trade.
If I'm the 49ers, I'm not trading any of them. You here, stay here. We might need you.
Right.
The way things go around here.
Old Tommy John here. You never know. All right. So Desmond Ridder's mine in the NFC again, just because he's got one shot. AFC. We'll round it up on this. Quarterback. Most pressure to succeed. In the Daniel Jones.
There are so many names that I could think of. I thought about Ryan Tannehill because, he's had two people drafted in the last couple of years. I thought about Deshaun Watson because of how poorly he played last year, coming off of suspension, thinking maybe he'll be back together. Mac Jones is another one. He might not even be a starter this year.
That's mine.
But how about Russell Wilson?
That's a good one.
A guy that – some people believe he's a future Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, has done pretty much everything you can ask in this league and has had great success. But if you watched what I watched last year, you would not even think, if you know that you're talking about aliens lately. Mm-hmm. So the aliens come down and they want to take in a game and they say, yeah, Russell Wilson, we heard about him. And they go watch that. That's what they think football was last season. Hell no. Come back this year.
Right.
Come back now and see him again, because what I watched last year wasn't football.
No.
It was terrible. And so if Russell Wilson has another performance similar to what he did last year, Russell Wilson will probably not be the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos going forward.
Yeah, because Sean Payton's not going to mess around.
Sean Payton is a new head coach there, and so now you have a offensive-minded head coach that has had great success in the league, won a Super Bowl, knows what it takes to be a winning quarterback, winning team. And so if Russell Wilson has anything similar to what he did last year, we may be looking at somebody else. And then he's probably not a starting quarterback ever again in this league.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good one. I mentioned it. Mine's Mac Jones. So Mac Jones, if you look at his career, first-year rookie, helps the Patriots make the playoffs. He doesn't look like he belongs in the same field as Josh Allen in the playoffs. Patriots get run off the field. Last year,
was that the game where they only ran the ball?
That was a Monday night game with the
when
wind.
You say ran off the field, like literally ran.
So that was a late Monday night game.
It was late in the season.
Yeah, but the playoff game is the Bills just took it to them.
Yeah.
Then last year occurs, and you've got Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as the two co-offensive. What are you doing? So you kind of had a built-in excuse if you're Mac Jones, but Mac Jones reportedly was also kind of butthurt about some comments. It didn't believe that Bill Belichick believed in him, and
right.
I thought Mac Jones did a fair amount of pouting last year too.
Okay.
I'm not saying he doesn't have a reason to be frustrated when you got two guys who've never called plays before calling your plays. I get it, right? Like you have a reason to be frustrated.
Very.
But here's the reality: Bailey Zappi came in and he actually did pretty well. He looks like Mac Jones, he plays like Mac Jones, and he performed better than Mac Jones. So, your replacement's already on the roster.
Yep.
What are you going to do? You're a national championship winner. A lot of people doubted you. You got drafted in the first round. You slid, all this stuff, right? Okay. To me, this is kind of put up or shut up time now. And I'm not even saying that's fair because they're probably the worst, talent-wise, they're probably the worst in the division. And they play in a stacked conference.
It's not probable.
They are from a roster standpoint.
You talking about? I thought you meant him as a quarterback in the division.
No, I mean the Patriots as a roster.
Him as a quarterback in that division. He's last.
But I think that this is kind of a fork in the road situation for Mac Jones.
I agree. Yeah.
There you have it. All right, so that'll do it for Gridiron, guys. Carey Davis, Anthony Stalter. We'll be back next week. We'll talk more football. I don't know if we're going to get into training camps or, again, when it comes to preseason football, kind of difficult to judge. So maybe we'll kind of continue to just do season preview type stuff.
Get to watch some games this weekend and see guys that we don't know play.
Yep, and
cool.
We'll probably not make their roster.
But I got a soft spot for those guys.
And, Carey, let's not complain that there's football on.
Not at all. This is a great time of the year.
That's right. So we'll be back next week on Gridiron, guys. We do appreciate you downloading the podcast and hope you go back and take a listen to some of the other podcasts that we've done in the past. For Super Bowl champion Carey Davis and Anthony Stalter, again, we'll see you next time on Gridiron, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Gridiron Guys podcast with Super Bowl champion Carey Davis and Anthony Stalter.
Driven by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Check out the Gridiron Guys podcast page at 101ESPN.com.